All right, crazy story. So my first Ashoka U was actually 4 or 5 years ago. It was in Boston, and I was 15 years old, and I sent an email to Beta, and I said, Beta, you don't know me, I'm a kid from Los Angeles, but I've got this organization thing going on. There are a lot of people at this conference that can help me make this work. Can I come? And she was super sweet. She gave me a scholarship through the Ashoka U Exchange Scholar. I came up with my dad, and 5 years later, here I am paying full price. So super excited about that. But I say that really grateful for Ashoka U and the Ashoka community. I'm a product of them, and super grateful. My name is Amit. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I'm the founder and CEO of an organization called My Name, My Story. My Name, My Story starts with my own story. Don't worry about the PowerPoint. I'm not using it. This is the show right here. I grew up with a speech impediment. When I was younger, I couldn't say my S's, X's, K's, Q's, Z's, etc. Super shy and insecure young person growing up. It was cute and all, and in like elementary school when you couldn't say the word cat or dog. When you got to middle school and you wanted to like flirt with girls, it got a little bit awkward. I remember very clearly sitting in my 6th grade religion class. I was in the very back of the class. It was the first week of school. And the teacher goes, all right, class, who wants to read this Bible passage? I was like the little brown kid in a sea full of white people at this Catholic school. I was freaking out. I was like, please don't pick me. Please don't pick me. Please don't pick me. And my teacher goes, Amit, why don't you read? I'm like, my name is Amit, but it's okay, we'll work on it. And passage was John 3:16, for those of you who might know the Bible. And I started off and I said, for God so loved the world. And everyone started laughing, right? My teacher started laughing, my classmates started laughing. I was like, wow, how ironic that in my religion class, my teacher's making fun of me for perceived disability. And I went to my parents and said, you know what, Mom and Dad, maybe I do have a problem. Maybe I need to get this checked out. You should go to speech therapy. I was like, I don't want to do that. She goes, it's like the doctor for your voice. I'm like, all right, I'll go. I walked into speech therapy. It was this older lady's house. I walked in like young people go to the dentist. We don't want to be there. We're completely angry. We're obnoxious. I walk in. This older lady goes, oh my God, Amit, I'm so excited. We're going to fix you. And I'm like, that's weird. I'm leaving. No, never mind. And I left. I left very quickly because I realized there was another old person in my life telling me that I had a problem, that I had something that was different about me, that I had something I needed to fix. My life changed when my parents said, Amit, why don't you try out for the mock trial and debate team, which is completely counterintuitive for a kid with a speech impediment to do. But I did. And I made the team not because of good speaking ability, but because of good grades. And that year absolutely changed my life. I had 2 unbelievable educators who trusted me, challenged me, and believed in me in a way that I never had before. They spent hours and hours and hours working with me, challenging me, recognizing that my disability could be my strength and not my weakness. And a few months later, there I was in the LA courthouse acting like Johnny Cochran at the defense attorney stage. It was so dope. I didn't know who Johnny Cochran was, and then I was like, wow, that's really heavy. That's a lot. Fast forward to freshman year of high school, I ran for student council vice president, and I came off a speech, and this girl came up to me. She goes, Amit, that was an amazing speech. You're a natural. It's not even fair. And I was sort of like, little do you know. In December of 2011, my dad was driving the car. We were going to school that morning. I said, Dad, I've got this relatively cool story to tell. I should share it. He goes, yeah, you should create a website about yourself. I'm like, that's pretentious. I don't want to do that. But what if there was a way where everyone could share their story? What if the process of sharing stories and listening to stories was inherently powerful? So I did. So in December of 2011, I was 13 years old. I started My Name, My Story. What was once a website turned into a club at my high school campus. What was once a club at my high school campus turned into me giving a few speeches. So I remember when I was 15 or 16, I started learning about systems change and all that stuff at Ashoka U. No idea what that meant, but I knew that I could talk. So I said, what if I could talk about empathy, the fundamental lack of empathy at schools? And so what I did was I created a fake email account like I was my manager. So it's like amit@themanager.com or something like that, or themanager@gmail.com of Amit. And I sent an email. It was like me and my mom at the thing, and it was saying, hey, I'm the manager for this guy named Amit. He's a good speaker. He's 16 years old. He'll do it at your school for free. And of course, it was free, so they did it. And so I had about 10 or 11 schools bring me in when I was 16. They put me on stage. I don't know how they did it, and I gave speeches. The speeches weren't that great, but I loved it. And after that, I brought on a team after I learned the power of teamwork and team of teams and all these buzzwords I heard at Ashoka. And so I brought on an educator, someone who worked at interfaith studies, a parent, another student. I brought my team, my friends together. And slowly but surely, My Name, My Story turned into an organization that delivers curriculum to young people all across the country. We created our patented Changemaker Day program that's worked in over 50 middle and high schools across the country and even a few across the world. Why I'm here right now in non-schools, I took a gap year away from Chapel Hill to exclusively focus on this work. So my last 7 months has been spent exclusively with young people. From inner city Chicago to Los Angeles to Los Gatos in San Francisco to Charlotte to Buckhead, Atlanta to Fresno and to the middle of the country. I've had a unique opportunity to dive into the experiences of what young people are going through in a time where we think that everyone has the same ideas. But something that I learned was much more personal. This work is not easy. This work is really hard. And this work often kind of sucks. And I never really realized that until I was a junior in high school. I'd spent 3 years building My Name, My Story. We did absolutely nothing up in that point. It was all in my head. I was just a young kid getting attention for some work. But I remember going to my parents and said, look, Mom and Dad, it's been a great ride with My Name, My Story, but I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. It's too taxing. Upperclassmen are giving me shit for it. People in my own grade are saying, Amit's just doing this for college. Amit's just doing it for this. Amit's just doing it for that. And there I was, right, a young person who was grinding for something that I actually thought mattered. And so I went to my parents and said, look, Mom and Dad, I'm done. They said, all right, we respect your decision. That night I was laying in my bed and I got a text message from a guy named Tyler Durman. He's one of the most famous youth speakers in the country. He said, Amit, I've got this speech up in Anaheim. I want you to come with me. It's about 2 minutes. I want you to come up there and give your story. I think it'd be really powerful. I said, I don't know. My mom said, no, Amit, you're going to go. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go. So I drive up. My mom takes me. I'm a complete jerk. I go up on stage, give my 2-3 minute spiel, come back off stage, go back home. I had an AP bio test the next day. Go back home, study for my bio test, go to school the next day, fail my bio test, and I come back home and I'm like, wow, this work sucks. This whole change the world thing, it's not that fun. And I went back to my parents. I remember it was a Wednesday. I said, look, I tried again. It's not for me. I'm done. Like, all right, respect it. I was laying in my bed that night playing games on my phone. I got an email. I opened up the email. It was from a girl named Mariah. I never met her before. She said, hey, Amit, my name's Mariah. I'm 15 years old and I was at your speech yesterday. And I was like, oh, I don't know how she got my email, but okay. Kept going. She goes, you know, Amit, I wasn't going to come to your speech yesterday. My teacher kind of forced me to, but I'm really glad I did. I really enjoyed it. I said, oh, that's nice of her. And she continued. She said, you know, Amit, when I came into your speech yesterday, I was really lonely. I was really scared. I didn't have a lot of good people in my life. I just felt very, very afraid. I was kind of reading this thing like, why is she telling me this? And she finished the email with a line that I'm never going to forget. She said, you know, Amit, when I came at your speech yesterday, I was really thinking about taking my own life. But when I heard your story, I realized that if I were to do that, I wouldn't have a story to share myself. And my heart just dropped. She left her phone number at the bottom, so I gave her a call that Friday. I remember driving home from school. I said, hey, Mariah, how you doing? Stupid question to ask. She said, I'm doing all right. I just got out of rehab. I said, all right, your friends good? She said, now they are. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, it took me up in a hospital bed for someone to ask me how I was doing. And it hit me right in the gut. I said, why does it take a tragedy? Why does it take a tragedy to bring people together? Why does it take a tragedy to move people to action? Why does it take that little girl in that hospital bed for someone to ask her how she's doing? And why does it take a tragedy to fix it? And you know, Mariah printed me out to be this hero that like came from above and gave my story and saved her life. That's not true. I was at the right place at the right time, and I needed Mariah just as much as Mariah needed me. And I share her story almost every time I speak because it fuels me. Because no matter how lonely or taxing or painful this work can get, if there's ever a Mariah in the room, it's worth it. But it shouldn't need Mariah. And I was tackling this question in my head. I've never given a speech like this part at the end right here. I've really thought about it. Why does it take a tragedy? And I look at the kids at Parkland, and I look at the amazing narrative that they are pushing out into the world. It's absolutely beautiful. But why does it take a tragedy? And I thought, Amit, when that happened with Mariah, 5 years later, you're still doing the work just because of her. Just because of a tragedy. Why? Because I realized that tragedies give us this sense of hyper-empathy. This accelerated sense of empathy. All of a sudden, we are attached to school shootings. All of a sudden, I was attached to mental health. But just last month, my brother went through the same thing. And it hit me one more time. We don't need these hyper-empathetic moments. What we need is to be telling our young people how to solve problems before they exist. And when I thought about myself and the system that I grew up in, I realized that constantly throughout my life, from those two mock trial and debate coaches to my parents, to the Ashoka community, to every single educator who trusted me, every single conference person who said, Amit, come speak. I had the privilege of getting agency over and over and over again. But that agency isn't changing the world, because for that young kid in rural Fresno, California, changing the world is a lot. He just wants to be safe at school the next day. But the question that I challenge this community to think about, I know we're talking about higher ed, but I work with middle and high schools, and they're equally as important because they're coming into your institutions, is what are we doing to give young people the agency to have moments of empathy that are not tragedies? Because I realized that my work, the privilege of doing this work, allowed me to constantly, over and over and over again, have moments of empathy. Have moments where I sit across the stage with Jamal from inner city Chicago, who I was called in there to coach for his project, but I should not have been there at all. And I said, Jamal, why are you doing this project? He goes, it's about gun violence. I go, well, what's it to you? He goes, well, about 2 months ago, I was walking on my driveway and I was shot at from both sides. And I said, whoa, hold on. He said, no, it's not a big deal. Or when I think about Duria from the Midwest, a young Muslim woman who, instead of shaming the white man who came up to her and disgraced her religion, invited him to her peace walk. I have had the privilege of having moments of empathy and moments of intimacy like that over and over again. And the challenge that I put out to this space is, what are we doing to tell our young people that they can do the same thing? If we are not giving our young people the tools and the agency to be change makers, we can't just tell them to be. And if we expect 20-year-olds to walk into college and all of a sudden turn into a change maker, that is ridiculous. Because if our institutions from the time they are 5 years old to 18 are telling them to follow a system and follow a system and follow a system and follow a system that not everyone fits in, we are failing them. It should not take a Mariah. So as a community here, we have the resources, the knowledge, the breadth to tell our young people that they can make change and put our money where our mouth is and work with them to give them those moments of empathy on a day-to-day basis, because it should not take a tragedy. Thank you.